PJNet.TV Part 2. It is time for Del Didway. We are running the bumper. We are recording. We are streaming live. The chat room is waiting, as is Del Didway in the green room. So, countdown. Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to PJNet.TV. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. A special welcome to all of you in the PJNet.TV chat room. You might be watching this on Twitter. You might be watching this on Facebook. You might be watching this on YouTube. And if you are, we thank you for sharing some of your time with us, and we hope we live up to your expectations. But we also invite you to come join the chat fellowship. Go to PJNet.TV, where you'll find, well, there's I see a whole host of people in there. A lot of good folks, and they're the best. Okay, every Tuesday night about this time, Del Didway comes our way, and he is standing by. Let me bring him to the stage of the Eagle's Nest. There he is, the man who blogs at deldidway.com. I'll put it up on the screen. Do not attempt to spell that phonetically. Hey, Del.
Hey,
you wrote a your blogs never disappoint me. I never read that and say, that was a waste of my time. But I may have read
but there's
into
always
it.
the first, right?
Keep working on it, buddy. You'll get there. Rivalries. It was pretty clear that this was just kind of a plug for your book, but nonetheless, rivalries. Good thing, bad thing. Which is it?
Oh, they're always a good thing. They're great if they're done in the right perspective. But it was a shameless little cheesy plug for a book we have coming out next month. One of our publishers asked me to write a blog for their site, so I kind of piggybacked on that, and I thought, I'll just write one for mine as well. Mm-hmm. We have the book coming out next month. It'll be out July 7th. So we're excited about that, and a little different one. It's not a devotional, so to speak. It's a motivational book. It's kind of devotional without scripture, you might want to say. Okay. But my agent and I, Kyle, wrote it together, and it was not based on a rivalry, but to me, it's a rivalry because I had to talk about what I had to do to write the book, which. If you're involved in a rivalry, typically you don't like your rival. so.
Well, the interesting thing, first of all, college football. One of the great things about college football is the traditions. And one of those traditions is rivalry. And they are usually teams that are physically located or, in proximity. One
most of them are, yes.
Yeah, most. And but and we have a lot of fun with it. It certainly creates interest in the game. Does it get out of hand sometime? Yes, but overall, I think
the media has a lot to do with that too. They hype it up for ratings. They want people to watch it, so they create a little bit of controversy. Most of the rivalries I've talked to, most of the players, but they don't hate each other. I mean, they're a lot of it is media driven. A lot of it is. Supposed to be that way because you grew up that way and it's just the way it is. So, but most of your rivalries are in state. You have Auburn, Alabama, and you have Florida State, and on down. Those are bigger rivalries. But ours is out of state. Ours is, I'm supposed to say that team up north. That's what I'm supposed to say. But I had to you kind of not tone it down a little bit, but I had to kind of talk about my perspective of it. It's a rivalry. Yeah, I know folks who, when the Ohio State Michigan game come on, there's people who don't speak to each other, and I've seen firsthand at these games how some of these fans act, and it's not flattering on either side. So again, the fans make it more than what it can be, I think. Because most of the time they're ignorant about the traditions, and so that's what I liked about it. I liked about looking into Michigan's history a little bit, learning more about the program, some of their really neat traditions they do, and some of their players So I learned a lot going into the to this project that Kyle and I started just over a year ago, actually, when we just turned it in, and it'll be well, about a year and a half ago, so it'll be out next month. So it took us some time to write it, and when we went up there, I went up to Kyle's house, and he lives close to Ann Arbor, and he took me over to the big house, and we didn't go in, but we got some pictures, in front of the Block M. I'm in my Ohio State shirt. He's in his Michigan shirt. And this is no joke. I'm not laughing about this. When I posted that picture of me in front of the Block M, I had some people who were really not jokingly upset. They were upset with me that I would do that. And I'm just like, really? Are you that insecure? Are you that, I don't want to say childish? Or really? Do you have to be that much of a I don't know. I can't say this word. I can't say this word. So, to me, yeah, it's a big game. To me, yeah, I want Ohio State to win because they always do. So, but if they didn't, the next day I'd get up, I'd go to work, I'd be okay. I mean, my life would continue. I'd call you on Tuesday night and be on the show. So I have a different perspective of them. I like the rivalries. I like learning about the rivalry, but I don't. It's not, life or death to me like it is some folks.
Well, football encompasses so much of life, and there's so much we can learn. When you think about competition, the ultimate competition would be war. Okay, here you have two competing ideologies, and it is combat. And they're the winners. There's an ideological conflict involved. Do you want, whoever it is, the communist or the capitalist, competing worldviews. When you have a rivalry, well, wait a minute, there's no competing view here. We just love, we love football. We love our home team. So why does it escalate? Why do some people take this so seriously as to hate the other team and therefore the other team's fan? I truly don't get it. I think they are, as you said, insecure.
They're insecure. They don't have much going on in their life. Obviously, something's happened to them to where this is the most important thing in their life, and it's sad. But I mean, I can give you a couple examples. And first of all, I want to say hi if my friend Amy's on. Hi, she's down in the great state of Texas. So she sent me a note, said she would try to watch tonight. A couple of instances come to mind. One of my first Ohio State Michigan games I went to. It's always bone chilling cold. I mean, not cold. I mean bone chilling cold, where you just can't get warm. And my friend and I are down at tailgating at 9 o'clock in the morning, getting chili. Red hot spicy chili at 9 o'clock in the morning, eating it with some friends, and some young boys run through the Ohio State section, painted in blue with just shorts on. And mind you, it's like 5 degrees. And they're yelling obscenities. And I'm thinking, really, it's 9 o'clock in the morning? And they start getting pelted with beer cans. And that's, to me, that's just not fun. And then there was another instance where we were actually in the stands watching the game. It was the year Tom Brady was playing for Michigan, and Michigan beat Ohio State in Ohio State. And some fans who were in front of us, about 5 or 6 rows in front of us, Michigan fans started to get a little mouthy. Either they had a little too much to drink, and a literal fist fight breaks out. I mean, fist fight.
What? Yeah, over what?
Because Michigan's winning the game.
Yeah.
And the only and they're coming up towards us, and the only thing I'm thinking, and I swear, Mark, the only thing I'm thinking is I'm going to have to move, and I just got warm, and I'm going to have to move. And I thought, this is so childish that people actually get in fistfights, and they take it that serious. I mean, I was at a Cleveland Browns game up in Cleveland when Buffalo was in town, and right before a game, some Bills fans are notoriously the jerks, to put it mildly. They walk over to this man who's sitting there in a Cleveland Browns sweatshirt, probably 75 years old, and these Bills fans just walk over, young kids, they just pour beer on him. Just pour beer on him. And then some other folks took up for him, and there was another fist fight breaks out. And then the kid who instigated it ended up going to getting arrested because he swung at a cop. And I just don't understand the savagery that comes out of people when they're at a sporting event. It's just ridiculous.
Well, competition does tend to bring out the best and the worst of us.
Yeah.
I have a couple of stories I can relate. As Florida State started to climb in the ranks and get national attention, some fans got out of control. And I worked in the hospitality industry servicing telephone equipment. So I was frequently at a hotel when we had out-of-town guests. And I always went out of my way to help them feel welcome, because after all, they're spending money. There's a bed tax. They are supporting our economy. They are paying high taxes so that we don't have to. And I would always let them know of the only government program I know that was actually effective. The Civic Center is only a mile or two from the stadium. And the city buses run a continuous loop, continuously. And so you can park in the Civic Center, and for $2, you get on a bus, and you'll be at the stadium in no time. And when you leave, there'll be a bus there within just a few minutes. Get on that bus and it'll take you back to the Civic Center. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would tell people, don't get ripped off paying $10 at some or $20 at some fraternity house and get your car blocked in and probably get it keyed. But here's the memory that served so well. Coach Bowden is a godly man. Mm-hmm. He's a man with a lot of class. And when the game kind of got, when the fans got kind of out of control, if they called a timeout or if there was an opportunity, on the big Megatron in the middle of the field, Coach Bowden would appear and say, "Hey, folks, I just want you to know, we want you to cheer for our team, but please, don't say anything bad about the team that came here to play us. It's hard to get people to play us." Yeah. And it kind of defused the whole thing, because it was. I mean, a team from Michigan, I forget which one, they'd come down every year just to get some sunshine, and they'd get beat. But Coach Bowden always did a good job of defusing the situation, because everybody looked up to him, and that's how he used his leadership to have a positive impact.
Well, yeah. So getting the rivalries are good. They do good. They do bring attention to the teams, to the schools. Friendly competition, supposed to be friendly competition, but you do see it mostly at the college level. Professionals, no, they really don't have any big rivalries. There were some, maybe 10, 15 years ago, or even back in the 70s when football was football. Not like it is today, but you had the Cowboys and the Steelers. That was a kind of a grudge match. And
Green Bay and
Minnesota, great games there. And back then, those guys generally probably didn't like each other, but the rivalry, and back even in the 80s, 70s and 80s with in the NBA, you had some really tough rivalries. Today, you got what I consider a lot of powder puff athletes playing the NBA. So I really don't watch it anymore.
I think I can explain it. There's been a huge shift. Back in the 70s, when you identified with a professional football team, let's say the Green Bay Packers, when somebody signed on with the Green Bay Packers, they played there until they retired.
Most of the time, they did.
Right.
And so you had loyalty. You had people that followed teams. I mean, back
the team was a team. They were like a family.
And nowadays with the NBA, the crowds are they've been fleeing in the last several years because fans don't follow a player. Back then, like when Bird and Magic played, or other players, they stayed at that university. And of course, Magic didn't, but they developed a following. And when they went on to the NBA, then those followers followed that player. And nowadays, you have kids who go to school for 1 year, or they're one and done. And so they don't get that following, and they're just there. They don't want to get hurt. So they got to make sure they're available for the draft. So they don't really play hard like players used to, and there's really no interest in the NBA anymore from me. And I used to love. In fact, right behind me, you got a picture of the book to this shoulder. You have Bird, Larry Bird's book is up there, and then beside him is Pete Rose. So I got both those autographed. So anyway, yeah, you had followings because players played hard and they played for a team. I asked Bird one time, I don't believe his answer. I asked him what would happen if he ever, if the Celtics ever wanted to trade him, and he said, "Well, I probably would just retire," because he said I couldn't play for anybody else. But you see Tom Brady, went to another team this year.
Well, that's a little different. Tom's a little older, okay.
A little older, but still, athletes up in Boston typically stay forever. I mean, you had Bird stayed there for his whole career, and you had Bobby Orr stayed forever there, and so you have a kind of a Carl Yastrzemski and some of the great Sox legends always stayed there in Boston.
A team was a team back then.
It's kind of surprised me that Brady left, but
I don't blame him. I really don't.
I don't blame him either. But
basically, the way I see it is in the NFL, which I don't even watch the NFL anymore unless they want to fix
tell you
themselves.
what, lately it's just been getting worse. This fiasco this past week with Drew Brees has really. It's just disgusting.
This isn't football anymore, and
no,
it's
not football.
Sorry,
they're better athletes than I am, and I couldn't play the game, but by golly, and I just applied for my credentials this week for the Bengals. I don't even really care. I mean, athletics is not athletics anymore.
Well, in another theater, Elvis did a good job of avoiding those issues.
Yeah, I remember the press conference. They asked him about something, and he just said, "I'm an entertainer. I'm an entertainer." Mm-hmm. These guys and some of these guys, who I don't look up to, but used to like and kind of cheer for. I mean, some of the things they're saying now, I'm like, they're so anti-American that to a country that's allowed them to make $1 gazillion, and they cry out loud without education about brutality and about being oppressed. And and I can say this confidently, most of these men are ignorant. And I don't mean that as a slam. They're ignorant of what's going on around them and the history. And I saw a post on Twitter this week, a picture of D-Day, the soldiers going into Normandy. Somebody commented the very first, the first fascist invasion, and I'm like, really? You have no idea what you're talking about.
They don't,
and they have no clue. And I rarely comment. I said, I feel very sorry for you because you don't know what you're talking about. And a lot of these athletes don't know what they're talking about, but they think they do. And then you have media who just suck up to them and are in such a stargaze frenzy at them that they just hang on to every word they say, and they really can't formulate intelligent sentences to back up an argument, so they squander and always blab about racism. When a person gets to racism, like your AOCs and some of these athletes, because they don't have any intelligent argument to make, so they fall back on that one, and people go, "Oh, okay, it's racist." No, they don't have the intelligence to carry on the conversation.
Back to your blog, we got to kind of wind it up here. Your book is a collaboration between you and Kyle Young. Now, it's important to note, if you don't already know, that Kyle Young is not just a Michigan fan.
Right. Kyle played for Michigan, and so he's got a couple of rings to show it. He was on the '97 championship team. So yeah, Kyle played. Kyle's my friend. He's my agent. He's my co-author. So he played for Michigan. Has a good perspective, and I think my perspective as an outsider, as an Ohio State fan, I think is a pretty good mixture, because you have a Michigan player writing a Michigan book with somebody whose first book was about Ohio State. So I think it's a good, intriguing combination, because again. in my conclusion to the book. I said, I grew up in Ohio. I follow the Buckeyes, but this really opened my eyes some to some of the history. Michigan is still the most, they are the winningest team in college football history. So I got to look back at some of those traditions and how they got there. I learned about the Brown Jug trophy and, just some really fun facts that I enjoyed looking back at. And so we're excited about the book. It's called Michigan Motivations, and it's 52 chapters. You have one a week. That's the plan. You read one chapter a week, and hopefully what we write about and talk about, it's either a moment or a play or a player or something, and we relive that moment or we tell about that incident. Then we give like a little life lesson and like a challenge to the reader. So it's basically a devotional without scripture, but just with it's with some. It's
what you're doing.
it's with some inspirational quotes and things like that. So it was a fun book to write, and that'll be out July 7th from Indiana University Press. And they've done a really good job on the cover. The cover is awesome. And like I said,
I
we're
wish
really
I'd have
excited
grabbed
about
that
it.
cover art. I could show it to you. But anyway,
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see, first of all, the interesting collaboration between you and Kyle, because you each wear so many different hats. And to see that come together the way it did is a testimony in and of itself. And I love the way your ministry has always looked for the good in athletes.
Well, then, you talked about rivalries. Well, then in August, which is the next month, I have two rivalry books coming out together at the same time on August. I think it's the 5th, I think. I have to double check on that. It's my two devotionals. These are devotionals from New Hope Publishers, and one's, Bama Believer about, the Roll Tide, and the other one's about Auburn. So we're going to release those two books together at the same time down in Alabama, and Alabama and Auburn's it's a big rivalry. It's almost as big as
it's fierce.
It's almost as big as the Ohio State Michigan rivalry, but I would say just a notch below, and that's not being prejudiced. That's just being objectively fair. So the Alabama Auburn devotional series will be out. But first, we have Michigan Motivations here, just in about less than a month.
Dale, keep finding the good in athletes.
It's harder. It gets harder and harder.
Yeah. When you started out, it was easier. So
I'm starting to run out of them. So
well, I am grateful that you do, because they do have an opportunity to be a positive influence, and with so many going the other way. It's good to know that you're carrying the torch, bringing the good news from athletes who have some good news to bring us. And I appreciate you, Dale. Appreciate you sharing it with us here on pjnet.tv.
It's always fun. Thanks for everybody for being out there, too.
All right. Thank you, Dale. Dale Duduit, right here on pjnet.tv. Hey, we almost finished on time for a change. How about that? Folks, we have another night coming up Wednesday night. I've gotten word from Michelle Medlock Adams that she is working on yet a third book, and she's in deadline, and her stand-in is absolutely outstanding. And it's Amanda Flynn. She's been on here once before. We've also got a first-time guest coming on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So I hope that you will make your plans to reassemble here. We have such a good time, and I'm so grateful for all of you who support what we're doing here. And there's so many ways that you show that support, and I am grateful for all of you. That is all. Before I leave, I want to ask two questions as a challenge. You don't have to answer me, but I hope that you'll ask yourself these two questions. First, what is the boldest thing you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And then second, how long ago was that? The challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.